DocTalk is brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, Sure Trace Mineral Supplementation by Timed Injection.
Hi there, folks. Welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. I'm glad that you joined us today. We're going to have a special guest, Dr. D. Griffin. And DocTalk is on the road. And Dr. Griffin is from the University of Nebraska, and we're going to be talking about beef quality assurance. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining us.
We were having some conception problems with the cattle, so our local vet came and we took some blood samples and found that some of the donor and recipient females were significantly low in terms of selenium and copper. With the use of Multimin, we were able to increase those levels back to a normal level. We've seen a significant increase in our pregnancy rates on our recipient cattle.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value. This segment is brought to you by Rotomix, manufactured in the USA and designed for feeding performance in the feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Well, folks, this is Dr. D. Griffin, and Dr. Griffin is a professor at the University of Nebraska. He's a veterinarian and has been one of the people that has taught many, many veterinary students, practitioners, and has spent a lot of time in veterinary practice and feedlots as well. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about beef quality assurance, which Dr. Griffin knows more than most anybody I know about beef quality assurance.
Yeah, they once thought I was crazy.
Yeah, but now it's the staple. It's the cornerstone of beef production. It's the cornerstone of some of the things that we do in veterinary, most of the things we do in veterinary practice. So let's talk a little bit about the history of beef quality assurance.
Yeah, it takes us back about 22 or 3 years. Kind of got its start when the government decided that we had too many residues. And when they showed up in the beef country, we thought they were picking on us. Turns out they were picking on, not us, but they wanted everybody to clean up their act. 1980, the antibiotic residue rate in cattle was 1.8%. In swine, it was over 4.5%. And over 30% of all the canned fruits and vegetables in the United States had violative pesticide residues.
Wow.
In 1980. I happened to be at the time working with Hitch Enterprises, and when I first came to work for that Mr. Ladd Hitch, they fed about 300,000 head of cattle a year and owned a couple of packing houses. Pretty good sized farmers as well. He had a couple of letters from the FDA over violative residues. And he calls me in and he says, young man, which back in those days I was, he says, we haven't spent 100 years building this operation. It's a family business. To have our name blackened by two $500 calves. He says, I don't know how this happened, but I don't want it to ever happen again.
And that was over a drug residue?
Drug residue, a penicillin and terramycin. Turns out there was actually then a third one showed up about the same time with erythromycin. But I set out to figure out what was going on, and we were following, they had a phenomenal record system. And all the residue, all the withdrawal times on the labels were being followed to the letter of the law. Had records in triplicate. It was, and when I finally chased it down, we had animals that had been turned loose, had been treated. We followed the residue withdrawal times, but they still had violative residues.
So then we had to figure out a way to get them stopped, and that started BQA. Let me take us to a break. When we come back, let's pick back up on this. Okay. It's a great story. Thanks for joining us. You're watching DocTalk.
This segment was brought to you by Brute Cattle Equipment, makers of the Brute Stealth Hydraulic Chute. If the chute fits, swear by it. Visit our website for more information. And by Lalaman Animal Nutrition, dedicated to the development and production of natural and differential solutions for animal nutrition. Beef producers need a practical choice when antibiotic therapy is required. More than ever, they are reaching for non-prescription Noromycin 300 LA from Norbrook, specially formulated to produce sustained antibiotic blood levels up to 4 days in cattle. Noromycin 300 LA delivers economic, broad-spectrum disease management for pneumonia, shipping fever, pink eye, wound infections, and foot rot. See for yourself why Norbrook's Noromycin 300 LA is the practical choice for your herd.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
You know just how costly BRD can be, but did you know that bacteria like Mannheimia and Pasteurella can cause BRD? That's why veterinarians and cattle raisers focus on preventing pasteurellosis with a quality vaccine like Pulmogard PHM1. It's ready to use, highly syringeable, and provides comprehensive protection with a single dose. For pasteurellosis protection that's truly the head of the class, ask your veterinarian about Pulmogard PHM1.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Noromycin LA, Normectin Plus, 1%, and Poron, the practical choice for your herd.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, here with Dr. D. Griffin from the University of Nebraska. He's a professor and he's a feedlot veterinarian who helped invent what we call today the Beef Quality Assurance Program. And as we left, we're following everything to the letter.
Well, we were talking about having some animals that rang up a positive residue, and we had followed what we thought were all the requirements. What we weren't doing is all of us when we went to school a gazillion years ago learned that, you know, if you want to use penicillin, for instance, to get a proper dose, it required about 5 times the dose that was on the bottle. We adjusted that dose, but we didn't adjust withdrawal times. And it wasn't until that point that we figured out that when you use drugs in a manner other than they're labeled, you change the withdrawal times. And that was sort of the light come on. And actually it wasn't just a aha moment. We actually did the work to figure out what the issues were. So we started trying to figure out how to hold animals longer or test. And we adopted a test that the federal or USDA was using in packing houses for urine. Started checking urine, and when the feds showed up and said we've got to do something, Mr. Hitch called me in and he says, I'm going to volunteer our organization, because the Texas guys were kind of wanting to kill somebody, or they weren't. You know, what's going on here?
Right.
They were really suspicious. And he said, I just got to know, are we gonna be clean? And I said, if we change the way we handle the withdrawal times on animals that we use medications off other than their label, yeah, we're clean. And we signed a 40-page memorandum of understanding. And for 2 years, they went through all of our books, tore everything apart. Everything was good. And the Texans, Richard McDonald in particular, took that 40-page document, summarized it on a card you could put in your pocket with 6 bullet points, and those 6 bullet points became the first guidelines for beef quality assurance. At the time, we called it safety assurance. And everybody kind of thought about that, and it sort of implied that, well, maybe beef's not safe, and so quality kind of fell out on the table, and that's where it got its start. And those 6 guidelines are still the 6 guidelines today. We've added a couple to that. We were focusing on residues from antibiotics, pesticides, that sort of stuff. And somewhere in the middle of it, finally the light again came on and said, you know, if you handle these animals as the precious creatures from God that they are, they won't get sick. If they don't get sick, they don't have an injection site, they don't have a residue. So put animal care, animal husbandry first, and a lot of this other stuff will take care of itself. And that's kind of where we are today.
It's a great story. It's a great service to our industry and to our profession. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk
Sure.
about how simple it is.
Sure.
Thanks for watching DocTalk.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Cow-calf, stalker, and feedlot producers know that effective parasite control improves overall herd performance and profitability. Norbrook offers a comprehensive, economical line of pour-on and injectable parasiticides for every livestock operation. Consult with your local animal health supplier to set up a program that protects your investment and brings larger cattle checks this fall. See for yourself why the Noromectin line from Norbrook is the practical choice for your herd.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Multimin is one of those products you can use to get the ultimate performance out of cattle. Around 90 to 95% of our calves are either AI or embryo transplant. Since we've started using the Multimin, we're up around 70 to 75% conception on our first AI service, and a product like this is very beneficial for us.
TrueTest Group, weighing systems, electronic identification, EID, electric fencing, and dairy automation systems help farmers and ranchers around the world manage the performance of their livestock for ultimate profitability.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. I'm here with Dr. D. Griffin, and Dr. Griffin is a professor at the University of Nebraska and a veterinarian, feedlot veterinarian. And one of the things that you told me about BQA is that it's simpler than you think.
Yeah, one of the things that maybe frustrate people is they think it ought to be hard. And we have a manual that's very, very complete with all sorts of standard operating procedures and examples of forms they can use to keep track of stuff. But everything you really need to do, you could put on a 3x5 card, put it in your pocket. It's a little bit like the Bible, you know. It's a big old thick book, and you can take out what you really need to do, put it in your pocket, and live a pretty good life. Jesus would be proud.
That's right.
But when you put that all together, we have a series of guidelines, and the guidelines address care and husbandry. So if you take care of them as the precious creatures they are, and do all the management things they need to have, the vaccinations and the proper, just care for them like they deserve. The chances of them getting sick are greatly reduced.
Right.
If they don't get sick, you don't have any injection site issues. You don't have any residue issues. There's no chance for a broken needle in the meat. I mean, really. So you start with something that's really, really simple, and that eliminates the majority of the problem. When you start thinking about the other problems, they're chemical, physical, and microbiologic. Those are the targets for food safety around the world. You know, chemical would deal with residues, antibiotic. If we use something to control parasites or flies and lice, you know, we don't want any of that product to wind up in the meat. So it's a really simple matter of following the guidelines that EPA, you know, sets out for the use of that, or FDA sets out for the use of the antibiotics, or USDA sets out for the use of vaccines. Really straightforward. and you don't have a chemical issue. And they give us plenty of latitude to make adjustments for the best needs of the calf.
Right.
Health and well-being should never be jeopardized based on some kind of government regulations, but neither should the safety of the food, and we know how to do that. Then comes come physical. So things like a broken needle. Nobody really wants to. You might think an 18-gauge needle would be like a toothpick in your roast, would be a value-added thing, but most people don't see it that way. But if you buy good needles, if you ever bend or damage a needle, you change it. You don't. And understanding how that kind of stuff happens. One of the things that we say in quality assurance is there are no most valuable players. So everybody's in on this deal. And one of the things that we learned early on is if you get really good restraint, they don't wiggle, they don't bend a needle.
Right.
And the last one is microbiologic. We do the best we can. You feed clean feeds, you don't cross-contaminate, you make sure the nutritionist doesn't step in the bunk as he's going on into the pen. So if I have any cow manure in my cow's pen, you got to keep the nutritionist kind of in line.
We'll try our best. Let's take a break and let's come back and let's talk more about BQA and keeping it simple.
This segment is brought to you by Purple Wave Auction, the easiest, most straightforward way to sell used equipment. Purple Wave, straight, simple, sold.
This is Agriculture Today from Kansas State University. K-State has been chosen to lead a new effort focused on developing wheat varieties that are resilient to the warming effects of climate change. A $5 million grant from the U.S. Agency for International Development will fund this project. USDA wheat geneticist Jesse Poland will lead the K-State research team.
First is obviously growing candidate wheat varieties in hot temperatures and seeing which ones do the best. And so sort of as a fast track to that approach, we're looking at what we call genomic selection, where we can use DNA markers to basically get a profile of the genome for all of these different candidate wheat varieties.
This is K-State Research and Extension.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production. Dr. Dan here. Whether I'm driving up and down the roads covering the state of Kansas or I'm getting between Riley and Manhattan for my job, I'm driving a Ford truck. I'd like you to come out and visit my friends here at Dick Edwards Ford. They have a truck that'll suit your needs, whether you're looking for power with a Power Stroke diesel or if you're looking for fuel efficiency with the new EcoBoost engine, they got a truck that's just right for you. They're located 2 miles east of the Town Center Mall in Manhattan, Kansas, and they'll bend over backwards to help you. And I'll see you down the road.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. D. Griffin. He's from the University of Nebraska. He's a veterinarian and professor. And we're talking about the Beef Quality Assurance Program. We've talked about the history and we've talked about its simplicity. Keep it simple and move it forward.
Yeah. Just to review about this simple issue, our guidelines talk about proper animal husbandry, use of feed them good feed, nice, check your feed, make sure it's not toxic feed. God didn't make corn pink, blue, or green. It ought to be yellow corn. That kind of stuff. It's pretty straightforward.
Right.
If you use products, use them as the government asks you to use them. I mean, they've been tested, researched. The labels, regardless of what most of us think, they're there for a reason. We need to read them.
Right.
Write down, the last one is write down what you do, and then check what you wrote down before you sell it. It's just that simple. You know, care for them as the precious creatures, feed them good stuff, use the products according to their approvals, write it down, and check what you wrote. I mean, that fits on a simple simple card.
Yep.
The neat thing about where we're headed, when I think about where we've come from and where we're headed, is because this has been one of those no most valuable player issues where everybody gets involved. I mean, everybody, not just the vets, but it's the nutritionists and the veterinarians and the suppliers and the family members of the operation. Everybody contributes. And when you think about putting all this together and you think about where it's going, we're now getting consumers involved, which is really cool. Because the consumers are looking at, we want to know how our food's raised, and we're kind of going, so what do you think? And they're kind of thinking, as an outside eye, well, can you do this a little better? And every time we listen to anybody, frequently they come up with things that we just have forgot to look at, or we didn't see what they saw. So this last step in which we have consumer input into what we're doing will likely is not only improve the life of our cattle, improve the quality of our product, but I have a saying in my office: if you abuse a cow in any fashion, I don't care how, physically, mentally, psychologically, nutritionally, environmentally, I don't care how you do it, she takes it out of our pocketbook. And as the evil capitalists that many people think we are, it is in our own best interest to do everything as best we possibly can.
Thank you. Thanks for spending time with us today. Folks, thanks for watching DocTalk. If you want to know more about the show or see archived episodes, you can see us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Remember to always work with your local practitioner. We appreciate you watching today. Appreciate Dr. Griffin joining us today. Hope you learned a lot about beef quality assurance. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson from Kansas State University, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
DocTalk, produced in cooperation with Drovers CattleNetwork and Bovine Veterinarian. For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, Sure Trace Mineral Supplementation by Timed Injection.
My name's Tim Todd. Along with my wife Chris, we own and operate Green Mountain Angus Ranch out of Rygate, Montana. We've been in the Angus business for about 30 years now. We sell about 350 bulls a year. We have a production sale in the fall, the third Friday in November, and we have a private treaty sale in the spring. We've been using the Multimin product for about 7 years now. We started using it off the recommendation of our embryologist. He suggested that we give our recip cows a shot prior to putting embryos in. We had a real good conception rate that spring, and we've been using the product ever since. This area of Montana can be a little deficient in copper. That's one of the three main minerals in Multimin, and so that we brought our copper levels in our cattle up to where they need to be. We've seen an increase of 5 to 6% in our conception rate in our AI program. You start getting 30 to 40 more AI calves in a year. We're showing a huge return by using the product in those regards. We give our cows a shot of Multimin pre-calving for the immune system of the unborn calf. She will transfer the minerals into the unborn calf through the blood system. When the calf is born, he has a high level of mineral in his liver, which will help with his immune system. In our particular operation, we lease a lot of pasture, so it's real important for these cattle to stay healthy. We don't get the opportunity to check them like we'd like to. The least sickness, the least foot rot we have, the better off we are. So with the use of multi-men, that's two of the big benefits we've seen. Healthier cattle, less maintenance.